of myself, and you give power and influence to the wrong people. Look how it turns out. You know, you have to hype yourself up when nobody else on the external side to keep up. All right, guys, welcome back to Ascension with V. I'm your host, Stashia Jeanette, aka V, and today I'm going to kind of pick up on a little bit of story time where I left off in last week's podcast episode. Was titled Navigating Life After Total Colectomy, Heads and Mental Health. I left out in that particular episode about the endometriosis because that was a whole episode for itself, and I was already approaching like 46 minutes on the last one, so I just cut it. So that's what we're going to talk about here, because I've had a lot of people ask me about my endometriosis and how it's going for me, what it's been like for me, what surgeries I've had thus far. Don't ask me for the years, because your girl has had a couple of death and rebirths and near-death experiences since now. The dates are a little fuzzy for me, but I will give you the rundown on the surgeries and currently what kind of treatments and things I'm on, and we'll go from there. So just diving right in, I have stage 4 endometriosis, and I've had it for some time, and essentially around, I think I was like 13 or 14 years old when I suspected endometriosis, and I had one primary care doctor as a pediatrician that was like, oh, you know, you might have endometriosis. So I started my period really young, and it was so painful. Every month it was super painful, and then I was bleeding really, really heavy and long. They were abnormally long periods. So by the time I was 13, getting ready to be 14, I was seeing an OBGYN, and I went through a few OBGs, and a lot of them were just kind of assholes about it. Oh, you're too young to have endo. You're too young. 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 And I heard the "you're too young" thing until I was, I want to say 15, getting ready to be 16. I saw this one doctor, and the one doctor was like, I'm pretty sure you're still too young to have it, but, you know, maybe we'll get it checked out. And at the time, I was still getting impacted. Like, I was starting to have the issues with not being able to go to the bathroom and have a bowel movement. And so, like, some years went by, and it wasn't until I think I was 18, because I was at the adult hospital. And might have been a little bit older, but I just remember all throughout high school not being able to, I was missing weeks at a time from school because I was in so much doubled over pain. Anyways, one of my teachers in the high school, my junior or senior year, referred me to a fertility specialist doctor who essentially was like, go check them out and see what they have to say. And they did a half-assed blood test, right? And anybody who knows anything about endometriosis knows, like, you can only diagnose endo from doing a laparoscopic surgery. Like, literally, that's the only way for them to accurately diagnose and treat endometriosis. But like, they did some blood tests and they were like, oh no, it's negative, so you don't have endo, and we told you so, and you're too young, and also we were right, and also you're just making it up. It's your anxiety. You're gonna get tired of me saying that, like, oh, it's your anxiety, because that's literally what I heard all the time. Oh, it's because you're a woman and it's your anxiety. So fast forward a couple years, I ended up going into a local hospital because I was in so much pain and I hadn't gone to the bathroom, like had a bowel movement in like 3 weeks. And so I was admitted to the hospital, and they were doing all this stuff to try to get me to go to the bathroom, and nothing was working. And so finally all the doctors got together and they were like, let's just do an exploratory laparoscopic surgery and see if she has like an obstruction of some sort somewhere, like what's going on here. So I ended up having this exploratory surgery, right? Found no obstruction, but found a shit ton of stage 4 endometriosis. And then the part that pissed me off about it was that because I was not, they brought in this gynecologist into the OR to confirm that it was indeed endometriosis. And the OBG surgeon came in, confirmed it, and was like, well, she's not my patient, so I'm not going to remove it. And then they sewed me back up and then wheeled me back to my room to tell me, like, okay, so you don't have any obstructions. However, you have stage 4 endometriosis, but we didn't take it out because you're not their patient. And they said that if you transfer to them, then they'll do the surgery. But if not, good luck. Yo, when I tell you that the anyway, it's been some shit. So they gave me the pictures, right? So they gave me the pictures to then take to this fertility specialist doctor, who was my gynecologist at the time, who was like, "Oh no, you don't have endometriosis." I had the pictures, colored pictures from this exploratory laparoscopic surgery in hand, and I showed it to the doctor, and they were like, "That's not endo." Like blatant denial took place. And at that point, I stopped seeing that doctor, and I ended up going, to a series of different doctors. But then this whole thing was going on at the same time of me getting sent up to the specialty hospital and getting evaluated for my slow transit motility, and then essentially subsequently getting my colon taken out, having the ileorectal anastomosis. But while I was up there, I saw a OBGYN, and I had a laparoscopic surgery for the endo. That was the first one. And they were like, this was the worst that I have seen. This is terrible. So then after I had that surgery, they tried to put me on Lupron, but I had already done my research well before I had this surgery, and I knew also, because spiritual gifts, I knew they were getting ready to try to like hoe me with this treatment, with this Lupron stuff, and I wasn't having it. It wasn't. I don't recommend anybody do Lupron because it wreaks havoc on the body, and it really is. It's not a good drug for anybody to be on if you can avoid it. And I did forgot what the shot was, but it was like the birth control shots. So I was taking that because it was supposed to kind of like essentially ward off, like create more time in between having to have another laparoscopic surgery for the endo. But because mine was so bad, I was still having to have a surgery every year, a clean out essentially every year, which I did have done. Eventually, I moved back to Knoxville, and I had a couple of laparoscopic surgeries here until one day I ended up in the ER with having like a huge baseball sized chocolate cyst that was either about to erupt or did erupt. I don't remember what it was, but I just remember being in the ER, and they had to do that vaginal ultrasound thing, and they were like, "Oh, this is what it is." And then they contacted my then current OBGYN, and he was like, "We're gonna have to do surgery." And then at that point in time, I ended up having the surgery, and the endo was so bad, plus the chocolate cyst, I ended up losing my right ovary during that surgery. And it's when I woke up from that surgery, he told me, he was like, "Your left one's getting ready to go as well because it's getting strangled out from the endo. It's just too bad." So then he referred me back up to that specialty hospital and was like, "You're gonna have to have a hysterectomy because it's just bad. Like all of it is bad, and there's probably no way to get the ovary out without doing the hysterectomy." And it was just a really terrible year for me health wise. I had gotten C. diff, and I went septic, and then they didn't want to admit that that's what was happening, and but they had me in essentially like the room before ICU, and this was all before. It was a month before I was supposed to have this hysterectomy that all this happened. And when I tell you, I was definitely knocking on death's doorstep, and the amount of pain that I was in, like both physically and emotionally, was brutal because it's like, I don't remember how old I was then, 28 maybe. Um, and it's like 28 years old, and then and I'm like losing my womanhood. I'm like, I don't have kids, so it's like not only that, but the option to be like, "Hey, you want us to freeze your eggs?" was like not even presented to me, nor do I have the money for that. So It's just like I felt like I just got hoed from the entire experience, you know what I mean? Like, I guess just having kids was just not a part of my incarnation this lifetime because I'm gonna keep it a buck 100. This is my last time here, like, I'm not coming back, so maybe I just wasn't meant to leave anything behind, so to speak, but, you know, that's a hard hitter for a woman, you know, especially so young, where it's like, "Oh, and by the way, you know, you can't have kids," and then, you know, like, I'm not married, so it's now these are conversations that I have to have with somebody, you know, off top. It's just like, "Hey, do you have kids? Do you want kids? Because I'm not gonna be able to provide that to you naturally." Right? And so I did. I remember I spiraled out for some time after that. And honestly, I didn't think that I was gonna be able to leave out of the hospital to be able to have the hysterectomy surgery because I was so bad off with the sepsis situation. I ended up having I tested positive for having like MRS methicillin resistant, whatever it's called. So yeah, I really didn't think that I was going to leave the hospital from that. And so, anyways, once I ended up getting better and then having the surgery, I ended up not having a full hysterectomy, which was also kind of like emotional whiplash because they couldn't get my uterus out. It was too risky. And then after the surgeon ended up telling me that they ended up having to reattach my abdominal wall because everything was so badly adhesed to one another. So they took my tubes and they were supposed to take the entire left ovary. But now, fast forward to 2025, and my now gynecologist is like, "Oh, I have no record of them actually taking the full left ovary, and I also don't have the record of the the right ovary ever being taken out, even though it was done in the same group." The disappearance of my medical notes is laughable at this point in time, and it's like things have been redacted and just kind of it just went into the ethers, like it just never happened, except I have the scars and the photos and the videos to prove, hey, this happened, you know. But now my now gynecologist is saying like, well, from what I could gather from the notes, it seems like you still have part of your left ovary. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So that's all that I can offer as far as where I'm at so far with my feminine organs. I still have my uterus. I still have my cervix. I still apparently have part of the left ovary. Not really sure. As far as estrogen goes, like I'm showing up at like 66 out of like a, you know, out of however much is supposed to be when I had my last estrogen thing. So like I'm very essentially kind of menopausal, but not really because I still kind of have periods. So context to it is prior to me getting put on this estrogen patch, it's like zero point 0.1 milligrams of this estrogen patch. Prior to that, my IUD, I have an IUD that they put in after my last endometrial clean out surgery. They put the IUD in because the progesterone helps suppress the endo. And so it ran out, and I guess because I didn't have the progesterone, my periods started coming back. Like it was like actual periods. And I wasn't on any additional like hormonal supplements. Like I wasn't on the estrogen patch at all. So something was creating, you know, a means for me to have a period. But like I said, it's like my medical history is like the world's largest mystery, like the damn Da Vinci Code at this point. But yeah, so now I have the estrogen patch and that's essentially it. Just because again, like I'm I just turned 33. Like I'm not gonna be out here having essentially no estrogen in my body, you know, so young. Like it's already a shock to the system to go through the things that I've gone through, but to just have nothing is not the move. So that's pretty much where I'm at with the endo. As far as the pain, I still have like the butt pain during my period times. My period now is not like a period with like bright red blood. It's like dark. I'm sorry for the graphics, but y'all have been asking me what is it like now, and it's like dark, like old blood dark. But it does still come out, like enough for me to have to wear a light pad. When I go to the bathroom to have bowel movements, I'm pretty sure that I still have really bad bowel endo, but now my current gynecologist is like, it's too dangerous to do any additional surgeries on you. And so, I mean, that's her standpoint. I don't know if that's where every surgeon is going to be. And like, if so, I get it respectfully. Plus, having to play Where's Waldo with my medical history would make it unnerving for anybody, like what the hell? What the hell? You kind of want to know what it is that you're walking into, but like if you can't get the damn notes for what it is that's going on, like I wouldn't, that's a setup. That's a liability. That's a setup. So I get it, but I definitely have bowel endo going on, and I had it before. It's I can only think of like what it may be like now running rampant in there, but I don't have terrible pain. I do get bad butt pain during my period times, and I'm doing pelvic floor therapy for it, but I'm pretty sure endo is the cause of it because it is like a lightning bolt in my butt during my period time. Only during my period time is it me doubled over in bed and like unable to move because again, it feels like a lightning rod is shooting up my butt. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, that's where I'm at with it. And I don't see myself having another endometrial ablation or excision surgery for it unless, I'm presented with somebody that is very confident and skilled in their abilities to handle such a complex stage 4 endometrial case that they have to hunt and peck to find the truth of what has happened with me and my body parts. And that's it. But yeah, I've been through it, and I've avoided kind of talking about it up until I got to this point because it sounds so crazy to say out loud of being kind of like, I don't really know, what's happening, with my female reproductive parts at this point in time. I know I still have a uterus. I know I still have my cervix. I do know that they took my tubes out, but everything outside of that it's iffy. I know for a fact that my last gynecologist did take my right ovary out because of the chocolate cyst situation. It was bad. But yeah, as far as that, that's what I've got, and I hope that answered everybody's questions. If you have any other additional questions on anything that I did not answer in here as far as this, please let me know. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Be squad.